My boyfriend's crush, who is pregnant, came back with a big belly. She provocatively asked me, if we were in danger, you guess who he would choose? In that bet, she deliberately lit a fire. When the burning beam fell, my boyfriend protected his girl. I got hit, fell in the fire, burned my legs. Later, with tears in his eyes, he apologized to me repeatedly. I just did it because she is pregnant, please forgive me. I handed him the little box containing our baby. Okay, as long as you let him live. Charles. At the moment he lunged towards Linda, my screams were drowned out by the fire. The fire instantly surrounded me, the searing pain made me panic and suffer. I kept screaming and struggling, but my legs were firmly trapped. Do you know how it feels to watch yourself being engulfed by flames? It's like a fish being scaled alive on a cutting board, like livestock being roasted alive on a spit, the burning sensation eating away at the flesh, the scorching heat seizing the breath. This is what it feels like to be helpless but unable to die in the suffocating smoke. My head grew heavier, even the pain couldn't keep me awake. I thought I was going to die. The patient's legs were severely burned, the hip bones and femur heads were fractured in multiple places, excessive blood loss, consciousness unclear, must be treated as soon as possible. I thought I was going to die in that fire, but then woke up in intense pain. Even breathing was a burning pain. I tried to cough, but it turned into difficult gasps and convulsions. It felt like I had died several times, all my strength drained, nothing but pain. As my consciousness gradually cleared, the fiery pain became more vivid, as if I were still in the fire, flames devouring my legs, making them bleed profusely, utterly ravaged. Jenny, it doesn't hurt, you have to hold on. The tears that fell were carefully wiped away, with a heartbroken sob in my ears. Mom, it hurts so much. I opened my eyes, finally woke up, saw my body covered in bandages, with legs swollen like pillars. My nose tingled, full of resentment, longing for a hug from my mother. I was in so much pain. But I didn't see my mother, only Charles standing by my hospital bed, his face full of guilt. Jenny, I'm sorry. It turned out it was his voice I heard. I almost forgot, Mom was no longer here. Jenny, forgive me. I didn't mean not to save you, I was confused at the time. Linda, she's pregnant, not agile, I thought you could dodge yourself. I never thought you'd get hurt. I deserve to die. He raised his hand and slapped himself, with such force that his cheek turned red listening to his repentance, his explanations. I couldn't say a word, but my hands began to tremble uncontrollably. It was her. She set the fire. I croaked, exhausted, pointing at Linda behind him with an innocent expression. Call the police. Where's my phone? What are you saying? Jenny, you can't accuse like this. Charles panicked, trying to appease me. Linda's face changed, tearfully aggrieved. Jenny, I know Charles saved me first at the fire scene. It's hard for you, but he only did it because I'm pregnant. We're all clean, you can't accuse me like this. She shamelessly denied it. But she was clearly the instigator of the fire, just because she wanted to prove who was more important to Charles between me and her. She got the answer she wanted, as the perpetrator, standing here unscathed, while I barely survived, almost losing these legs. Why? Where's my phone? Charles, give me back my phone. But it was a single-person ward, with no one else to ask for help. Calm down, Jenny, your body is full of wounds, you might hurt them. Charles tried to hold me down, but my wounds were too many for him to handle. I'll keep your phone for now, you recover, we'll talk about the rest later. No matter how decisively I told him it was Linda who started the fire, he seemed indifferent. Seeing Linda's gradually calm expression, I finally understood. Charles wouldn't let me call the police, he wanted to protect Linda, to keep the peace. I suddenly remembered when the fire broke out, Charles rushed into the house, pulling us to run together. When the burning beam fell, it happened so suddenly. Charles shielding Linda was also sudden. By the time I reacted, I was already trapped underneath. I was in too much pain and fear at the time, my mind blank, but looking back now, when everything happens so suddenly, there's no time for the brain to think. So, Charles pushing her away wasn't a calculated decision, it was instinctual, his body reacting faster than his brain. Linda was more important than Meso now. He made the same choice. Jenny, you're too agitated now. I know you're upset. But it's happened. Your actions will only ruin Linda. Nothing else will change. Jenny, spare Linda. Charles knelt in front of the bed, comforting me. Your injuries I will take full responsibility for. I will marry you, take care of you for life. Charles actually proposed to me. It's ridiculous. A few months ago, I talked about marriage with him. He looked hesitant, found many reasons to refuse me. But now, to keep me from calling the police, he actually knelt down to propose. Charles, do you love her so much, to sacrifice like this? I laughed, tears falling. Do I still need to thank you for your mercy, willing to marry me? Jenny, can you stop looking at me like that? Stop saying these hurtful things. I was wrong, I'll make up for it. I'll be with you until you calm down. No need, get out. But Linda came over. Jenny, don't be so stubborn. You're all alone. If Charles leaves, who will take care of you? Do you want to call your stepfather? I looked up, seeing the smugness in her eyes, feeling chilled. Charles, what did you tell her? Charles hesitated, eyes flickering. Jenny, I didn't mean to tell her. Don't blame him, he was just worried about you. That's why he accidentally blurted it out while drunk. Besides, your stepfather's actions are not your fault, nothing to be ashamed of. Why do you care? Is that so? She said like that, but her expression was scornful and disdainful. I never wanted to use my childhood traumatic experience to seek sympathy from anyone. Charles finding out was purely accidental. At that time, Charles had just gotten together with me, accidentally caught my stepfather harassing me, helped me get rid of years of nightmares. He seemed to be shining at that time. Charles, once my redemption, but that ugly scar, Charles treated it as a joke and told Linda, the once redemption has become a nightmare. Charles, you make me sick. I grabbed the vase on the bedside table and threw it at them. Get out, even if I die here, I don't want your pity. The torn feeling from the burned palm spread, bloodstains on the gauze spread instantly. Linda screamed in shock, looking at me in horror. Charles also froze, only getting worried when he saw the blood on my hand and urgently called for a doctor. I begged the doctor to call the police, but they just silently treated my wound, and before leaving even asked Charles, does the lady need a sedative? I looked at them in shock, but Linda whispered in my ear like a devil, stop it, can't you see? In the eyes of the doctor, you are a mental patient, no one will listen to you, this is Charles's family hospital. If you want to walk out of here in one piece, you better shut up. I felt a chill in my heart, realizing they had imprisoned me. I was trapped in the hospital, no phone, no way to move, cut off from the outside world. Charles stayed by my side, saying a lot of things, his affectionate look probably even deceiving himself. He said this time he wouldn't leave me, he wanted to make it up to me. But, just one call from Linda, and Charles panicked. When Linda on the other end started crying, Charles didn't hesitate to grab his coat and walk out. Jenny, wait for me to come back. Linda said she fell, bled a lot, and no one was there to take care of her. I chuckled, Charles. You promised to take care of me, and now you leave? Is there any truth in what you say? Sorry, Jenny. He didn't have time to explain more, and hurriedly left. He was only thinking about Linda's safety, never thought about how a person with severely burned legs who can't take care of herself would manage to lie there alone. Forget it, I've seen what kind of person he is a long time ago, what's the point of expecting anything? I endured the endless pain from the wounds, and when the doctor came to change the dressing, my legs were already a bloody mess, the skin and flesh completely indistinguishable. My once praised for being fair and straight legs, now like muddy, blood-stained craters. I think, for the rest of my life, I won't be able to wear a skirt again. Endure it, don't bite your tongue. The doctor pitied me, pushing my sweat-drenched hair aside and handing me a piece of gauze to bite on. The rotten flesh was scraped away bit by bit, blood staining one piece of gauze after another, slowly separating the sticky skin and flesh, rinsing off the blood, then applying the medicine. Each step was a piercing pain. I was drenched in sweat, my teeth ached, and I felt like I had been to hell and back, only to be pulled back to the world. Are you feeling okay? Perhaps my face was too pale. The doctor checked me again anxiously. This? Why is there so much blood? I heard the doctor's exclamation, followed his gaze, only then saw the spreading red on the bedsheets. It's not from the leg wounds. The doctor asked me seriously, are you pregnant? My breath caught, and the abdominal cramps hit me belatedly. My stomach hurts. This is bad. The medication we used earlier might harm the fetus. This is unpredictable. Let's call Charles first, let him decide. Don't give her any medication for now. Listening to their conversation, I belatedly realized, I'm pregnant. No wonder I've been feeling nauseous and uncomfortable lately, almost fainting. I placed my bandaged hand on my abdomen, feeling no sign of life from this little one. If not for this fire, I think I would have happily told Charles this news. But now, I was clear-headed enough to know what choice to make. Doctor, remove it. This is my own child. I don't need Charles to make the decision. The doctor's face was serious, but he did not respond to my words. This is my child. I have the right to decide whether or not to keep it. I'm not mentally ill. I don't want this child. How can I trust someone who abandoned me in a big fire to let me give birth to his child? But the doctor said if I wanted, they could adjust the medication, and the child might still have a chance. Stop deluding yourself, Charles, you're not worthy. I slammed my fist into my lower abdomen. Charles was terrified. He hugged me, eyes turning red. Jenny, please don't do this. I truly love you. Can you forget that day? I beg you, he pleaded. Forget? How could I forget? I couldn't forget him running towards Linda in the big fire, holding her and leaving me behind. I couldn't forget seeing Charles at the hospital, supporting a heavily pregnant Linda at the registration desk, even though he had made excuses to reject going to the hospital with me the night before. But he was so caring and attentive to Linda, speaking softly and with a gentle smile. However, every time he spotted me in the crowd, his smile would freeze, turning into a nervous awkwardness. Don't overthink it, Jenny. She's just a friend of mine. She's a single mom, too busy to handle everything alone. I'm just helping out as an old friend, he explained. Linda scolded him, what's wrong with you? If your friend isn't feeling well, why didn't you accompany her? I said I can manage on my own. There was no need for you to follow me and give people the wrong impression. She then turned to me and apologized. He's always like this. Please don't take it to heart, it's my fault. She handled the situation so gracefully that I always felt like I was the unreasonable one. Do you like Linda? I asked him. Charles's pupils dilated, quickly shaking his head no. I love you, Jenny. Linda is just a friend. She's a single mom, alone in this city. I just feel sorry for her, wanting to take care of her a bit. Then why do you have a photo of you and her hidden in your wallet? Charles's face turned pale. What? I saw it, the hidden affection you kept so carefully. It was originally a group photo, Charles, Linda, and Linda's boyfriend. But he had cropped out Linda's boyfriend, making it look like a photo of just the two of them. Seeing that photo, I suddenly realized his hidden, unspoken feelings. Everything was so clear now. Every time Linda was around, Charles would steal glances at her, effortlessly mentioning Linda's likes and habits. And at Linda's boyfriend's funeral, I accidentally saw him and Linda embracing, both with teary eyes gazing lovingly at each other. The regret and heartache in his eyes were a cruel irony to me. How foolish I had been to be deceived by his flawed lies and even delude myself into believing he loved me now. I had paid a hefty price for my foolishness. No. All that's in the past. I only like you now. He dared not admit it, but I no longer wanted to believe him. Forget it, your affection disgusts me, just go, I told him. Charles had such thick skin that it was unbelievable. Originally, we could have ended things decently, but his authoritarian and overbearing attitude exceeded my imagination. He had drained all my feelings for him. As my wounds slowly healed, I was already thinking of ways to leave this place. Confronting Charles directly wouldn't work. I needed to find a way to get a hold of a phone and contact the outside world. To make Charles lower his guard, I gradually changed my attitude towards him and reluctantly agreed to stay with the child. He was overjoyed, delicately touching my belly, full of anticipation. Baby, you must grow up healthy and safe. Daddy loves you very much, and he loves your mommy too. I closed my eyes and never responded to him. Finally, I saw my chance. While Charles slept peacefully, I managed to get his phone and contacted my best friend, telling her about my current situation and the address, seeking her help. When my friend Cindy burst into the hospital room with the police, Charles was stunned. "Cindy, what are you doing? You're restricting Jenny's freedom." "Of course, I came to save her." "You scum, move aside," she said. Charles was pushed away, and seeing me calmly expressionless, he finally realized. "No, you can't take Jenny away. Her injuries haven't fully healed, and the hospital at my home can provide her with the best treatment. She's already carrying my child." Charles rushed over, pleadingly looking at me. Despite his efforts to remain calm, I could see his panic through his eyes. "Charles, look, it's not that I can't leave you. If I want to go, you can't stop me. Jenny, please," he pleaded, tears welling in his eyes. I knew what he feared. As soon as I left that place, without hesitation, I exposed Linda for setting the fire, and Charles for trying to confine me and protect her. After undergoing skin graft surgery, my body was extremely weak. Following the doctor's advice, I needed to wait for my body to recover before any further procedures. For someone with severe burns on both legs, the initial treatment was just the first step. The rehabilitation of the legs after being bedridden for so long posed a new challenge. Every step felt like the skin was tearing apart again, the muscles in the legs severely deformed from the burns, sticking together. Long-term bed rest had left my legs without enough strength to support standing, let alone walking or running. The physical pain of each step on the ground wasn't the worst part. The fear that I might never be able to walk normally like before haunted me. Though it was certain that I could never return to my previous state, but if I ended up as a disabled person, what would I do in the future? All the pain and confusion made me resent the one who caused all this. I would call every few days to inquire about the progress of the investigation. Investigating the fire wasn't easy. It was a big fire at Charles's countryside villa, almost burned down completely. Although the cause of the fire was determined to be the burning curtains, located in the kitchen, despite my testimony, there wasn't enough evidence to prove Linda did it intentionally. So, the progress of the case wasn't as promising as I had hoped. Damn it, Charles's house has surveillance cameras, but he refuses to show the footage to protect that woman. Cindy is so angry that she curses at them several times a day. I realize Charles won't willingly show the surveillance to incriminate Linda for my sake, but I must find a way to make him do it on his own. I can't believe it. Is Charles's affection for Linda really that unshakable? The video of Charles carrying Linda out of the fire went viral, and people were sighing about the romantic Princess Carrie moment. Just like in a drama, both Charles and Linda are undeniably attractive. The way the woman nestles in the man's arms, looking pitiful, while the man frowns and then gazes down with tenderness, is just picture perfect. It's clear to perceptive observers that there's something not quite right with the way they look at each other. Amid the numerous praises of their compatibility, no one paid attention to me in that fire. But we share many friends with Charles, and as the video spreads, the complex relationships among the three of us gradually come to light. Online comments are divided. Some think Charles did the right thing by rescuing Linda and even suggest he should break up with me and be with her, while others find it unacceptable for a boyfriend to leave his partner in a fire to save someone else and begin attacking Linda. Just when netizens were fiercely arguing, someone claiming to be in the know quietly revealed some information. Do you know how that fire started? Charles had been secretly in love with Linda for years. If it wasn't for Jenny, they could have been together. The fire, it was Jenny who, jealous and wanting to prove her importance to Charles after learning about his feelings for Linda, lured Linda and started the fire. And to make matters worse, they're now implying Linda did it. How could a pregnant woman commit such an act? She's getting what she deserves, though, as far as I know, Charles has already broken up with her. After this revelation, the internet erupted. Supporters of Charles and Jenny flooded social media with insults and curses directed at Meth's so-called truth, twisted and distorted, was readily believed by these people, unleashing a torrent of hate towards me as they were misled like puppets. This ridiculous drama, both laughable and chilling, began to unfold. Cindy was quick to come forward with a clarification statement supporting me, but few believed her. Perhaps no one cares about the truth. They choose only to believe what they want. How can these people be like this? They know nothing, yet they demand evidence from me. Linda's words are not evidence, so why do they believe her? I patted her hand, calming her down. Ignore them. Linda wants to make a big fuss about this? Let her. If she doesn't, how can we keep her under control? Public opinion fermented drastically, and my stepfather's past was dug up as well. More hurtful words began to surface, painting a distorted image of me having an inappropriate relationship with my stepfather and causing outrage among the public driven by curiosity. They wanted to unveil any scandalous story between me and my stepfather, fantasizing on one side and denouncing me for lack of discretion on the other. Then there was a netizen who claimed to be my classmate, talking big online. She used to dress flamboyantly in high school, socializing with many boys in our class and relying on her foxy face. As if a grand feast, everyone played the role of the righteous, and I became the one to be condemned. My hospital photos circulated online, shattering the little peace I had left. On the road to recovery, someone splashed water on me. As I struggled to walk, enduring the pain of my wounds tearing open and bleeding, someone threw small stones at me, causing me to stumble and fall. I looked up to see children's disdainful eyes and hear their scornful laughter. Bad woman, shameless for a moment, my vision blurred with sweat trickling down my face. I collapsed, feeling intense pain in my legs, shaking uncontrollably, as if I couldn't stand up again. Since that fire, my sleep has been restless. So when someone touched me, I woke up immediately. Opening my eyes, I saw those menacing black eyes, and cold sweats broke out as memories of nightmares long buried resurfaced. Stepfather. He came to see me again. Jenny, relax. I heard you were in trouble and couldn't get you off my mind, just came to check on you. Why do you look like that? Get out. Get out. I struggled to get out of bed, but he grabbed my shoulders and covered my mouth. With Cindy gone, there was no one else in the ward. I couldn't make a sound, fear wrapped around my throat, suffocating me. Don't make a sound. I just want to have a chat with you. I really like you, no matter how you are now. Just say yes, come home with me, and I'll treat you like my precious little girl. I bit his hand hard, pushing him away when he winced in pain, yelling, "Help! Help!" The injured leg made it impossible for me to run, and I crawled a few steps before he pulled me back by the hair. The slap he landed on my cheek stung, and I screamed, but he choked me, calling me a vile woman, asking who else would want me in my current state. Gasping for breath, I finally regained some consciousness from the pain and managed to grab a broken shard of the vase. At that moment, I really thought it would be better if we both died together. Regardless of the future, I just wanted him dead. Trembling, I aimed the shard at him. Go to hell. He finally let go in pain, clutching his injured arm, angrily kicking towards me. The intense pain in my lower abdomen made me black out for a moment. He wanted to come at me again, but was intercepted by the doctor and nurses who rushed in upon hearing the commotion, causing him to panic and flee. The blood beneath me couldn't be stopped, and I vaguely knew that the child was probably gone. After experiencing the excruciating pain reminiscent of hell after being burned, the miscarriage didn't seem as painful as I had imagined. But for some reason, lying on the operating table, tears just couldn't help but fall. I felt sorry for that little life, but more so for myself. And now, I finally bid a definitive farewell to that man, and there would be no more connection between us. Charles came the day after my surgery, my body still very weak, feeling pain everywhere and unable to muster any energy. Why are you here? I asked. Jenny, I couldn't let go. I'd been looking for you, but the police kept calling me over, which delayed me a bit. Charles approached cautiously with flowers and fruits. Why do you look so terrible? I looked up at him and calmly said, Charles, your child is gone. His expression instantly shattered, drained of color. Why? Didn't you promise to try to keep the child? Why do you have to be so extreme? I apologized. I promised to marry you, to make it up to you. Why can't you forgive me? He choked and howled, clutching his hair in anguish. That's enough. You've let Jenny down. Do you know how much she suffers every day? If it weren't for the woman you got involved with starting the fire, if it weren't for you leaving her in the fire, would she be so injured? Would she not want this child? Cindy interjected, pulling Charles away to kick him out. You don't know, Jenny had a miscarriage because she was beaten. What? Charles turned pale. Who did it? Why don't you ask your good friend, Linda? Cindy mocked. If it wasn't for her deliberately instigating online harassment, leaking Jenny's information, Jenny wouldn't have been sent flowers every day, doused with cold water, or had stones thrown at her, and you still can't let her go. You have to bring her stepfather into this. Charles, your child was beaten to death by Jenny's stepfather. Cindy pulled up my sleeve, showing him my battered body. Besides burns, there were bruises left from confronting my stepfather yesterday. Charles stood there in a daze, clutching his trembling fists, painfully deluding himself. No, Linda wouldn't have a reason to do that. Yeah, she didn't have a reason to do that. So the fire was set by me, the stepfather was instigated by me, I deserve to be scolded, to have a miscarriage, to have my legs burned, right? I stared into his eyes, questioning him word by word. Charles's gaze shifted, lowering his eyes heavily. No, Jenny, I hope you'll be all right. Is that so? But you've never done that for me. It's ridiculous that I even thought of keeping this child for you. I grabbed his hand and administered the final dose of harsh truth. Charles stared at the box in his hand in a daze. What is this? Charles. I called his name, tears in my eyes. This is your child. He was 3 months old. He had little hands and feet already. His body trembled, wanting to pull away, but I held on to him tightly. He's dead. You gave up on me, you gave up on him. The stepfather is the culprit. Linda is the culprit, aren't you too? No. Charles's pupils constricted, suddenly shaking off my hand, stumbling back a few steps, and rushed out of the room in a daze. Cindy closed the door, asking me worriedly, will he really investigate this time? He cares so much about this child, he can't have no resentment. Call the stepfather, tell him to find Charles. Additionally, send the other evidence we found anonymously. This time, even if he wants to escape, he can't. I guess the rumors online were related to Linda. The sudden appearance of the stepfather was suspicious, so I contacted him using the video of him laying hands on me as leverage. He spilled the beans on Linda giving him money to come find me. By following the trail, we could find evidence of Linda's online defamation, hired trolls, and marketing accounts. With all these pieces of evidence, Linda couldn't escape this time. But these were trivial matters. What I had to do was make sure she couldn't turn the tables, and the evidence that could prove Linda's arson was in Charles's hands. I wanted Charles to see her true colors. I wanted Charles to regret. Why should I be the only one in pain? On the third day, Charles came in disarray, looking like he had been heavily struck, his eyes bloodshot, collapsing in half beside my hospital bed. I'm sorry. He sobbed, holding the small box. I'm sorry, baby, I didn't protect you. Jenny, I didn't expect Linda to be like this. Don't know why she suddenly changed so much evidence, and she still shamelessly lies. How could I have been so foolish to trust her? He grasped my hand. Jenny, if I take revenge for our baby, can you forgive me? Can we go back to how things were? I gently patted him. It depends on how you avenge him. Charles handed me the video preserved from the fire scene, and I immediately contacted the authorities. Linda should be locked up by now. On the day this news went viral, I went live for the first time and made a statement about the situation. There was no need for pointless arguments, I simply presented the evidence. From the video of Linda arguing to setting fire, buying off influencers to spread rumors and tarnish my reputation, paying my stepfather to harass me, manipulating the online public opinion for cyberbullying, everything is crystal clear. Comments show sympathy and encouragement towards me, some still skeptical, while more people flock to Linda's social media accounts to curse her out. Everything I have endured, I have now passed on to her. On the day of the court confrontation, Linda hysterically cursed at me, even more fervently at Charles standing by my side. The look in Charles's eyes, once eager, turned into indifference, and now, disappointment. After being locked up for so many days, it was clear during the trial that Linda's mental state was far from stable. Her hysteria couldn't lessen her own guilt, and her prime years are destined to be spent behind bars. After the trial, I descended the steps with a cane, rejecting Charles's attempt to help. Jenny, you once said that if I avenged you and the baby, we could start anew. These days, he persistently tried to entangle me, but I refused to accept his kindness. Now, it's time to clear things up. Charles, from the moment you made a choice at the fire scene, I made mine too. I can't forgive you, especially with a life between us. He was incredulous. Even the child's matter was part of your plan? I thought she would come by herself, and I never intended for that child to survive. He had to die at Linda's hands to trigger you. And now that you're no longer useful, you can leave. As his expression shattered bit by bit, I suddenly smirked maliciously. Oh, I almost forgot to remind you. After the fire, you hid the video, covered for Linda, kept me in the hospital without letting me contact the outside world, made false statements to the police, all amounting to sheltering a criminal. What will you do if I don't comply? I have already filed a lawsuit, Charles. You loved Linda so much. Now that she's in jail, are you not going to join her? Charles paled, lips trembling. You can't do this to me. Why? Haven't you done the same to me? He was speechless. Unfortunately, I didn't get to face Charles in court. He got into an accident. Cindy told me at the hospital complexly. Charles was hit by Linda while driving and now he's in critical condition. Wasn't Linda locked up? How did she get out and hit Charles? I just found out that Linda apparently had a miscarriage in jail, escaped while on medical parole, not sure who helped her, and went to find Charles, hitting him. It said that when she was caught, she kept cursing, blaming Charles for betraying her and using that video to put her in jail. Cindy sighed. These two deserve each other. While Linda's escape and hitting someone with a car, she might as well be stuck for the rest of her life. As for Charles, he woke up in the hospital after almost half a month, with a spinal injury that would confine him to a wheelchair for the rest of his life. I saw him again at the hospital during a follow-up visit. By then I had almost been able to walk without a cane. He sat there, lifeless in the wheelchair, not sure what was on his mind. When he looked up and saw me, his eyes suddenly reddened, as if wanting to say something. I turned away, not looking at him. Those who leave me behind cannot stay in my past, and I will keep moving forward.